Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again, but you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up?
Hello. Welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent. Ding. Was that clear?
Ding, bitch.
Because my tongue was towards the top of my mouth, not the bottom of my mouth, so I was enunciating.
Do you want me to enunciate more today?
No, it wasn't passive aggressive. I was just telling you what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
I was sharing.
Oh, thanks. I was like, damn, bitch, does my tongue at the bottom of my mouth?
No.
Do I sound too? We didn't do a mic check.
No, he did do a mic check while we were rambling.
Oh, okay.
But then you just move the mic closer. But that's okay. Leave it because you get quiet throughout the show.
Fuck.
But no, I was not being shady. I'm sorry that your childhood taught you that.
No, literally, Gervais.
I was just proud that I enunciated. I was proud that I remembered my tongue placement,
Ding,
actually.
Bitch.
How much do you care about the show versus I care about the show? My tongue placement.
No, but it's so true. I never think that you're actually doing something. I know it's me. I have to check, though. Mm-hmm. It's me. Literally, Gervais said to me, and then we're going to start with this, but Gervais said to me maybe like months ago, and she was like, you know that like when I say things to you, you'll like look at me and look like, she was like, trauma. And I was like, yeah.
It's not you rubbing your heart.
I know. I'm stimming. Can you hear that?
It's me, not you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Shoves boobs in the camera. Okay. Am I the asshole for leaving after my girlfriend gave birth to our disabled child?
What a baity title.
It's such a baity title. I grew up in a home with a disabled brother. All of my parents' money and attention went to him. They pretty much forgot that I existed. All of our family activities were predicated on my brother's ability to participate. I did not qualify for financial aid. I was not a great student, and honestly, attending college would have been a waste of money. Instead, my grandfather helped me get a job on the oil rigs. It is hard, dirty, lonely work, but it pays very well. I started as a floor hand apprentice. It is basically the lowest of the low. Ew. I did not cut off my family, but I did go out of my way to stay in contact. I was working in another state, and they did not have time for me anyway. Excuse me. I got a call about 10 years later. My little brother had passed away. I went to the funeral, and my folks looked about 25 years older. It was good to see them, but I left pretty quickly afterwards. It is hard to explain, but I never really got attached to them since they had ignored me since I was 5. I was never abused or anything. I was just sort of a second thought. I have such a client in my mind. This is crazy. Ex-client. When my girlfriend got pregnant, I was happy. We had been together for 3 years, and I was happy with her. These sentences are like a 10-year-old wrote them. I hope I was making her happy. We talked about it, and we decided to get all the tests so we could know if we were going to have a healthy baby. Before the first test, we agreed that if we were not having a healthy baby, then we were not having a baby. I know it is a horrible thing to contemplate, but I had been through that life for 13 years, and I was free of it with no interest in going back.
Pause. 2 things. Do you think, more of a question, do you think it's possible to not address the trauma you have with your family of origin, that you like stopped talking to them because you felt neglected, and to start a healthy family?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Why?
I don't think it's possible because the things that you learned as a kid live in you. And even if it's not traumatic, like this clearly is like a traumatic lives in his situation.
Yeah.
You're going to pick a partner. You're going to pick a lifestyle that fits what you know. And so you're going to pick a partner or friends or whomever who fit your family and origin, that attachment, that those dynamics that were created with you when you were younger. And if you're not going to work through those, you're just going to kind of keep, and some people want that. I think some people want to repeat what they've had, if my parents have been married for 40 years, they're going to look for somebody like their mom, maybe even unintentionally. But people like this who don't work through their stuff pick somebody. Isn't that crazy?
Could it be 25% better though? And is that good enough?
I think that's what people think. They're like, if I just like muscle it through, if I white knuckle it, if I just am better. And maybe some people do that. I don't really know. I've yet to see it necessarily, and not even in like what do you think?
I think probably not, because I feel like Well, how about this? Even if you pick somebody healthy, you have a lot to work to do while you're in that relationship. And it's whether or not you want to do that work when it comes up.
True.
So even if you happen by accident to pick somebody very healthy and functional that doesn't mirror your pattern, which I'm guessing you did pick somebody who mirrors your pattern based on this thing, which is you pick somebody who is like your parents and literally relived having the most important person to you pick somebody's disability over you.
But isn't it interesting?
Recreated that. You didn't work through that and you recreated that.
And this is the thing. I'm about to answer my own question, I guess, because I was going to ask you, like, this person theoretically could never know that they were going to have a child with disabilities, that their partner was going to do all this. There's no way for them to know that, right? And there's a part of me that is like, is this proof? I mean, I already believe this, but, you know, trauma, that our family histories, that all this stuff like lives in you, that we like actually do repeat patterns. And I was talking, who was it? I forget, but somebody was saying to me, it was like, trauma takes like 3 generations to get out of your family cycle. So I'm just like,
I don't know anything about that. I just know
like,
that when people don't do their work, they don't work through their trauma history, they pick the things on the surface that are different than their family of origin. But right below the surface, that person is very similar to their family of origin. So what, like, for instance, is like he did the like surface level thing, which is a hard conversation of like the screening of like, what are we going to do in this situation? But does her behavior and how she showed up in the world really say to you, or did it really say to you that she would be capable of doing this and that this is something she'd want to do?
Because probably not.
And I don't know.
Right.
But that's the piece of like, that's like picking like, oh, you know, your dad was an alcoholic, so you're going to try very hard not to pick an alcoholic. And often people will do something like pick a sober person.
Right. Somebody who's around. So even if they hadn't had a child with disabilities, she probably would have
put the child before him, which would have been a trigger
anyways. Right. So
But like, so for instance, with the alcoholic thing, right? It's like you're going so far the other way. Like, I'm going to pick somebody who doesn't drink because I'm uncomfortable with alcohol. And so now I'm happening to pick someone who's sober. Like, it feels safer to be with someone who worked through this.
Or doesn't.
You are still picking an alcoholic or someone who had alcoholism. They're just in a different package. And the behaviors that probably draw you to them mirror some of the behaviors you had at home, or what it would look like if your dad had worked through that shit. And that's part of the reason why you like it. On the surface, it's like, oh, what that parent could have been, even if you're not consciously thinking that.
Say, just for some clarification, because I wasn't sure where Gervais stood on this, but so are you, because I believe that an overwhelming majority of people, that is exactly what they do, is just they pick someone where they think they're avoiding, those situations. But were you saying that you do believe that their life can still be 25% better without addressing it? Or do you think that it'll still...
I do think it can be 25% better.
Okay.
Yeah, 25% better, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because
yes, it can be better, but like...
If you pick somebody who's sober, whether or not they have a lot of behaviors around, maybe they still have really low self-esteem and they didn't work through that. Maybe they're white-knuckling their sobriety and they're really unhappy in their sobriety. Whatever. All of that is still better than your abusive alcoholic parent. It's still an upgrade, but it doesn't necessarily feel that much better to the person who upgraded because their wounds from their abusive parent are being triggered
all the time.
So even if on paper your life is even 50% better, it doesn't physically feel like that in your body. It feels shitty. That's why people are still bailing out and freaking out in those marriages.
Right.
Because I feel how I felt when I was 12 and my alcoholic dad did that, even though you're not an alcoholic right now. Does that make sense?
I think that was kind of brilliant, actually. I think that was extremely well described. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, and I was sitting back here going, these broads, like, come on, like, whatever, 25% better, that's as good as you can do. Like, what do you need? But no, I think you're exactly right.
Called, what is
so
it
if he worked
traumatic reenactment, right?
Yeah, if you worked through the trigger, one, you probably wouldn't pick this person. One of two things could happen. You could work through the trigger and feel really satisfied that you are in this relationship where you're able to like get all the good things from having this thing that mirrors your family and not be so triggered. Or I think what a lot of people do when they realize their trigger and they start to name it and work on it is they try to avoid somebody who triggers them. Like they're like, actually, I don't want to have a relationship with someone who triggers me. And that's when we get into the like, I'm going to be with somebody maybe who's a little boring, but they're stable or whatever, you know, like that, like, I don't want to be pushed in that way. I don't want to be prodded. I want to not be triggered. I know my trigger is somebody who, you know, whatever. And I'm going to go very far to, you know, maybe instead of a sober person, I'm going to be with somebody who's literally never experienced a lot of life and like is really religious and like doesn't drink alcohol and like doesn't do all these things and is really rigid. And like, do I think you're making your life smaller? Yes. But also you probably feel better in the day to day. You feel safe.
Yeah.
Or like someone who wants to start hanging out with strippers and things like that after a rigid type relationship.
There you go. The other way. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, wait. Let me read the rest of this.
Yes.
I spent, one of the tests came back positive.
No, when my girlfriend got pregnant, I was happy. Right?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Maybe I scrolled.
It's right above that one.
I think I read this already.
Oh, okay.
Before the first test, we agreed that if we were not having a healthy baby, then we were not having a baby. I know it is a horrible thing to contemplate, but I have been through that life for 13 years, and I was free of it with no interest in going back. One of the tests came back positive for one of the conditions that we had decided we would not want in a child. This is why genetic testing is important, y'all. Please understand that I am not in any way saying that people with disabilities should not be born. Only that I knew I would not want to be around for that. We had second, third, and even a fourth opinion. I spent a lot of my savings on tests that insurance would not cover in full. It was not a not great time. Then my girlfriend said that she had changed her mind, that she could not terminate. I argued with her for days, weeks, until it was too late. I told her that I would not choose to be around to help with the child, that I would pay child support, but that was it. Our relationship was on cruise control from then until the baby was born. I made sure she got home safe from the hospital, and then I went to work. I never went back. Jesus Christ. I paid the child support that I was ordered to pay by court. I did not fight it or dodge it, but I've not seen her or her child since the hospital. I got married 3 years later. We were expecting our first child, and I heard from my ex. The child had passed away. She wanted me to come to the funeral. I said no. I knew it was coming. It was still a gut punch. My parents are upset with me for how I handled things. They went to the funeral. I told them that I did not want the life they had lived while my brother was alive, and that my ex had tried to force me into it after agreeing not to. They said that they were disappointed that they had not raised me right. I got angry and said that they had not raised me at all. I asked them to show me anything they had from my childhood that showed that they had taken the slightest interest in me. They said that wasn't fair because they had to care for my brother. I just said that was my point and hung up. I feel like shit about the whole thing, but my ex knew how I felt and why. To this day, I do not understand why she changed her mind. My wife and I talked before getting married and made the same decision. And thank God we did not have to make it, but she understood how I felt. Her mom and her dad talked to us about it, and they told us that we had to do what was best for us. I had told them everything about my past that was relevant to my relationship with their daughter. Sorry for rambling, but I guess I'm just trying to put all my thoughts down while I have the courage to ask, am I the asshole? I think yes and no.
Wow. This is like the most loaded. There's so many dynamics on this one.
I don't think you're an asshole. That's my opinion. I do think out of respect for her as a human, you could have went to the funeral. Because you loved her and helped her conceive that child.
That was my only thing.
You should have. And that's me, like, you know, that's me passing judgment. But I think that the thing of integrity to do would be to suck it up for one day and go to the funeral. Because you helped conceive that baby. You're the only person who, whether you want to admit it or not, is equally impacted by that baby dying, by that baby being born.
And I mean, to be completely honest, in my opinion, I think it is kind of like, I think it's a fine decision to make in the world. I think she totally I think it's fine to leave if you know that you can't be that's the ultimate fucking trigger. Of course you don't. And you said that was their agreement. Not being able to muster it up to even, I don't know, to show up for the funeral is just a little bit there's some lack of emotionality to it that bothers me. But
here's the part for me. Our headphones are cutting in and out. Oh, we're good. Here's the part for me that mirrors childhood. The only way you knew how to handle what your parents did to you, in quotes, is to completely remove yourself. And that is exactly what you did in this relationship and with this child. You actually repeated what you did with your parents, which is very unsatisfying. And then you kind of moved on to this new wife and got lucky.
And started over.
got lucky that you didn't have to be in this situation again. I don't think you're a bad person because I think you said before she had the baby that you didn't want to be involved in the baby's life. And I do think that's your right. I don't think that I would have the stomach to have somebody who's my child walking around on this planet and not ever meet them really or interact with them in a real way.
No.
But if you are literally detaching from your family, not wanting, you went to your brother's funeral, but not wanting to spend any quality time with your parents even after that, like it's
not working through any of that.
It's giving like it's not personal that you weren't a part of this kid's life. Like this is your life story to like run from this, and you couldn't handle it.
I just don't buy that nobody feels like, yeah, that detached.
And then you're repeating your cycle with your parents because they're choosing your disabled child over you.
Yes.
By siding with her. So it's like,
and they're disappointed in him.
You didn't do the work, and now you're in it. You relived it again. You literally relived it.
You had to create a whole new family to like relive this, and are still, yeah, exactly.
And it'll be interesting when you have your first child, like to see how you handle not being first and front and center, and like what that triggers and brings up for you. But I don't think he's an asshole, because I imagine that if you were around the kid, he would be miserable and miserable to be around.
What would you tell this person?
I would say it's time to work through some of this shit.
What would you tell them that they, like, what would be the thing that they, like, could bring to a therapist?
What do you mean? Like, what would be the question?
I feel like people are often like, well, I don't need it, or I work through it. But if you were looking at this person, you're like, I think you do. And this is what I would tell them if they're like a little miffed about what to bring.
Oh, I think I would go into therapy and discuss how you didn't feel important in growing up in your family of origin. And I would just start there. And the complicated period. You could probably start with talking about your parents' response to you not going to this funeral, and it would probably devolve from there.
Unravel some shit.
Unravel something there. Like if you started by just being like, I made this really hard decision that's full of a lot of grief, and nobody in my life, like in my core family or my last partner, is supportive of it. And like, it's been heavy. Something I want to talk about kind of thing.
I like that.
So the title is Foster Mom is Breastfeeding My Baby. Is this legal? Can I do anything? No, I don't think it is legal.
I don't give a fuck if it's legal, but you can get your ass whooped.
But then it's like you won't get your kid back.
Yeah, that's
if you attack the foster mom, you're not getting your kid back.
I can get her jumped.
That's the thing. Once CPS has your kids, they'll have you by the neck.
The neck. You have to do whatever they want.
Period. Hi, all. First things first. My son is currently in foster care through my own doing. I have struggled with addiction and relapsed hard when he was born. I called CPS to help me out. I also feel sad that she doesn't have a functional enough family system, that she didn't have like a mom to be like, come get my baby.
Come get my baby.
To call CPS on yourself.
I know.
Is bananas.
She was struggling.
Also, I just got chills a little bit because I was like, oh, you really love your baby.
Yes. It's like heroic.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you really love your baby.
I know.
You really knew that, like, you were like,
he doesn't deserve this.
No. He was breastfed until he was 3 weeks when I relapsed, and I had formula fed him until he was 5 weeks, at which point he was removed and placed with the foster family. Also, wow, only 2 weeks into her relapse, she was like, yeah, no. I've worked hard on staying clean, and I'm currently 6 months sober. My son is 9 months old, and I am in the midst of getting him back. Right now, we're doing day visits 3 times a week. Previously, it was only for a few hours a day, so feeding never came up. I was permitted to feed him solids, but there was no reason for him to have milk. Last week, I started full-day supervised visits. The first one, I noticed him rooting and thought it was odd, but assumed he remembered me feeding him or something. His foster mom took him back and told me he was hungry. I asked to feed him, at which point she mentioned the fact that he was breastfed. I was kind of taken aback. I told her he was on formula when he was removed from my care. She said he, quote, took to breast milk well, and it was easier and better for him. Apparently, it was also on his paperwork that he was breastfed by me. I was pretty uncomfortable. It feels violating. She's bonding with him in such a personal way. I spoke to my caseworker about it, and he said there was nothing to be done. I didn't specify that I didn't want him to be breastfed. I assumed it was a given. He said he talked to the foster mom about transferring him to bottles. Foster mom spoke to me on our second visit about reintroducing lactation in me because I'll make the transition easier for him. She's out of her fucking mind.
Insane.
She's
Bitch,
out
I'll
of her
smack you.
motherfucking mind.
Bitch, I'll smack you.
She can't. This is like, she can't do
I know,
anything.
but I'm saying, like, I want to smack this bitch. Like,
how could you
what?
even reintroduce lactation? Once you stopped lactating, haven't you stopped lactating? Does she even understand science? Can you reintroduce lactation? Am I
You can.
tripping?
I think you can. Yeah.
But, like, not.
After 6 months?
There's remember the movie Hand That Rocks the Cradle?
I do.
Yeah, that's what the lady does in that, at least. I don't know.
I think you
And
can.
movies don't lie.
Well, I think you can anyways, but, like.
I'll look it up, will you guys?
Please. I would prefer for him to be on bottles, though. We've had 2 more visits since, and he was breastfed at all of them. She's also rubbing it in her face. Why are you breastfeeding my baby in front of me? And then also, like, her breastfeeding means I can't bottle feed, which is like, I want to bond with my baby. It's going to be my baby. You're fostering, not adopting. Fostering.
I think that is something you can, like, talk to somebody about. I think that caseworker was lazy.
I agree. I would have lost my shit if I was the caseworker.
Lost?
I can't
My
believe
God,
I would have, but this is why I'm a problem in like the system, because it's like, you know, you encounter a random hospital social worker, 1 in 50, who actually gives a fuck and is starting issues, and this would be an issue I would start. And if my like colleagues didn't think it was a big deal, to escalate it, because I think it's unfair to the baby for the baby to be bonding like this to somebody that they're never going to see again after they get pulled out of their care. Why am I bonding to this level with a quote foster, a babysitter, basically?
Sick.
That's like a babysitter breastfeeding. Why am I bonding to this level?
Sick. Girl, I'll kill you.
This is so beyond insane that it's like, to even hear the caseworker do the like, well, you know, I'll talk to him about transitioning to bottles is like.
No, you tell them you aren't to do that shit anymore. Why do I keep doing it?
No, the person says, what? They're fucking breastfeeding the kid? I don't even know how that's not the reaction.
I don't either. It's giving checked out.
It also
like they didn't even put it in the chart. Like they didn't even put it in their notes. Like they didn't say anything to anybody about any of it.
How about I post this on Facebook and we'll just put it to a vote to the general population? Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
End of next week, I'm going to be moving to unsupervised visits as long as I, quote, pass. And I'm really worried about it. I don't know if he takes bottles or if he'll even settle. She nurses him to sleep for naps and everything. I don't want his first experience back home to be filled with sadness because he can't eat the way he's used to and can't go to sleep the way he usually does.
Oh, look, thinking about her son like a mother should.
I don't feel like this is right regardless. Is this legal? Can I do anything about it, or I just have to write it out? And parents, how do I help him through the day if he's not coping? Thank you.
Even if it's legal, you should still be able to like write a complaint or like be like, yo, this person should not be.
Somebody commented, foster parent here. And training, we were told under no circumstances ever was a foster parent to breastfeed a foster baby. They cited one local incident where it happened and the person almost lost their license entirely. But basically the baby was removed and the foster parent was forever barred from taking kids under a certain age, I think 5. Personally, I would feel totally violated as well. This should have never happened. From a practical standpoint, you are so close to the finish line, it may not make sense to make waves. It's so true, though. As much as this is wave worthy, it may make sense to escalate to a certain point, but if you're encountering more resistance, wait until reunification and then blow it out of the water. This is a difficult calculus only you can make, but that's probably how I would approach it.
Agreed.
Wow.
So that foster mom is mentally ill and unwell at like the highest level. Hand that rocks the cradle is about right. And the thing I'm going to say about your kid is that I think coming home is going to be a hard transition. I think like they bonded with a different caregiver and like they're going to have to bond with you in a way where like you are their priority. And I think you're going to be able to do that. And that's going to be just fine. I'm actually more worried about like how you're going to cope with the stress of having this baby and managing your new sobriety than I am about the baby. The baby's, if you're fine, the baby's fine. So it's focusing on like, what do you need to do to be fine? Do you need somebody else there to help you and support you when you have this kid for the day? Do you need a break to cope if the baby's crying for a couple hours? Is that something you feel like you can handle? Like those would be the kind of questions I'd be asking myself. And it's like no shade to you as a parent, but I think almost any parent who hasn't had their baby full time for the last 6 months, it would be a transition period to have your baby back for a full day or whatever.
It's a lot of fucking work.
But I'd be disgusted.
I feel irate for this woman. Can you imagine sitting there and you can't do anything and you want to smack fire from this bitch?
Fire. You can do
Fire.
nothing. And she knows it. That's part of why she's rubbing it in.
Sicko.
What could you possibly do? Because you don't want to do anything that could indicate that you're unstable. And I feel like if everyone around you is telling you this is no big deal and you say it's a big deal, that is you risking them saying you're acting unstable. Even though you're not. You're taking a risk when everyone else is telling you, yo, be cool, and you don't want to be cool.
Right. Once you piss your social worker off and they don't like you have issues. And that's what people go up against all the fucking time is like your social worker saying, no, I can't do that. And you're like, well.
And if your case manager doesn't like you, they're talking shit about you.
Yep.
Like when I get a new kid and they have a case manager, if their case manager doesn't like their mom or their parent or whatever, they tell me in the first 5 minutes. They're telling the other providers and people you're working with what they think about your family. They're very clear about it.
In a way that lets them know that it's negative.
Oh, yeah. I think this kid's lying. I think this mom's, whatever. They tell me whatever they think is the negative thing because in their mind, they're like fed up and
get them in line.
You are draining too much of their energy and like they get like the pass to be shitty because they're doing this great work in quotes.
Do you appreciate that when the other person does it? Like, I mean, is it necessary or do you judge them like you're being an asshole?
I don't judge people when they give me a heads up about a quote crazy parent because I think they really think they're helping me out. And then I like get to decipher like in my interactions with the parent how I feel about the parent. And the reality is your caseworker is usually anti to the family because the caseworker is trying to come into the family and say this is something you need to change in order to have your kid. So I bet the parent is more hostile to you. Like two things can be true, right?
Yeah.
Like this mom's a quote bitch, but she's a bitch to you because she hates you. And like how she, I've also gone toe to toe and like argued with like CPS caseworkers, about why isn't this kid having more visitation or why, there's a lot of things that'll happen where like a county will say like, hey, you get to see your parents 3 times a week or something. And then like they lose a county worker and now you only get to see your parent 1 time a week. And they're kind of like tough shit. Or, like you go to a foster home and at this foster home, the parents don't want you to have your cell phone. It's like, well, I went from being able to text my parents every day to not being able to. And they're like, tough shit.
And that's upsetting.
Whenever I push them on it, their response is like, they get to fall back on like confidentiality. So if like it's an open CPS report, like they get to be like, if you piss them off, they pull it on the therapist too. Like on the therapist, they also pull a like, well, I can't tell you that and I can't do this and whatever. Like they fall back on like breaking the rules too. So it's just like shitty. So like when I say things like, like this kid is feeling hopeless and suicidal because they're in this foster home and all these things are happening in the foster home, they're like, well, I can't tell you details about blah, blah, blah. Like it's still protecting the foster parents and the state over the kid, even though they're saying it's for the kid. Like I've quite literally had kids removed from their homes because their parents keep pissing dirty for like THC. Like you can't tell me a kid is better off in a group home than with parents who smoke weed. You can't tell me that. You can't.
Can't. I was going to ask you guys that. Like when a parent self-reports, right? She self-reported. And then when I heard you said she's been clean 6 months or something and still doesn't have the kid back, to me, that struck me as like, why isn't the kid back already? You know what I mean?
Common.
Because she has to be able to pass all the rigorous tests that they're doing. And the rigorous tests are about stability in your home. And you have to ease back into it. And you have to prove your sobriety. It's like once you're in.
For how long would you say?
It depends.
It depends on the caseworker's discretion and the judge's discretion. It's the judge and the caseworker who get to decide, which is why it's such a fucked up system.
Literally based on what they think of you.
It's the same as how like if you had a prosecutor who was a hard ass or not, it would change like your whole sentencing.
Exactly.
And I do understand that you have to establish that. I'm just saying as someone who's had those issues.
6 months in
I'm disagreeing and saying like there could be a caseworker who would give that kid back after 2 months and be like, you just have to keep pissing clean and keep the case open. Like it is up to their discretion. And so that's what's, I think, kind of fucked up about the system is like a judge and a caseworker, they get to decide that. And like,
which is why we say it's rigged.
It's their choice.
Right.
It's the same thing as like somebody, this is a overused example, but it's like someone could have been caught with a joint before like weed was legal. And like, it's that prosecutor's choice whether they want to give them like a ticket or something else.
It's based off of their own values, their own
you
thoughts
give away
about
all
this
your
person.
power once you have that.
Yes. And so like it's fucked up because, a my opinion is like the kid should have went back as soon as possible, as long as there was like a stable plan to help mom
Especially
and
an
monitor.
infant. Especially an infant.
But like that's up to that person, right? And so she's feeling that, she's sensing that, like when her caseworker's saying like
That judgment.
Yeah, I'll ask mom. Like she knows what that means. That means like I'm not requesting it. I'm not forcing it, but we'll see what she says.
And don't
rock
bring
the
it up
boat.
again.
Yeah, and she's doing it.
Yeah.
So,
I know. Oh.
Last but not least.
Also after this one, I have to run upstairs and use the little girl's room.
Okay.
My husband is refusing to tell me about the strange woman he and my kid talked with. Lots of weird kid shit today.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Just
unintentional.
title.
Strange woman he and my kid talked with. So last week, Friday, why are you laughing, Gabe?
It's such a funny title to me. Like, whoa, what happened?
Is
It's a
funny
mysterious
fucking to you?
title.
That's a
It
funny
is.
fucking title to you. So last week, Friday, this was one day ago.
Okay. Yep.
My 30, I can never read these. My
so
husband,
last week, Friday, me, 30-year-old female
my
husband.
32 male, picked up our kid, 7-year-old female, from school. He always offers to do it whenever he comes back home early from work. I bet he does. I was checking outside the window to know when they were close so I could open the door from them as our 2-year-old was asleep. So I obviously didn't want her waking up as he knocks on the door pretty loudly. As they were about to cross the road, some woman that I've never seen in my life just comes up to them both and started talking to him. Judging from his reaction when she first appeared, he looked surprised, and they chatted for about 2 minutes. He was like, "What is my side bitch doing here?"
Who is this strange woman?
Who was sucking my dick 2 nights ago.
Also,
Wait, let me finish the sentence. Judging from both of their body language, it looked like they had known each other. Go ahead.
why is he knocking? Doesn't he have a key?
I was like, did I miss something? Is this an apartment? I'm missing the setting.
Why is he knocking?
I was checking outside the windows because he was coming home.
But why is he knocking? Why doesn't he have a key? Co-parents have keys. Like, I don't understand.
That's what I don't get. It's giving baby daddy.
Nah, it's giving bullshit, or you were peering through the window because you've been suspecting he's a cheater. Don't lie.
Oh. Afterwards, she just knelt down and talked to our daughter for a few seconds before giving her a kiss on the cheek and giving him a friendly goodbye wave. Girl, I'll
Super.
fuck you up.
They're going to talk about this when they're having sex later tonight.
Bro,
You think your wife saw me?
literally. Yeah, she did. And they both got off to it. My husband had a big smile on his face. That motherfucker. While walking towards our house, I'll admit I was jealous because I was confused who this woman was and why she was giving our kid a kiss on the cheek. When they both came into the house, I just straight up asked him who she was. He stayed silent for a few seconds before saying she was nobody and quickly heading downstairs. I then decided to ask our 7-year-old who she was, but she had said to me, "Daddy said I shouldn't say." Motherfucker. I tried to ask her
You're
again. I'm
triggered.
so mad. I tried asking her again what they were talking about then, but she was refusing to budge and just kept telling me that she shouldn't say as he told her not to. These past 4 days, I've been looking back at the footage on that day. We have cameras.
The Ring camera? She's on the Ring camera, like, zooming in, like, across the street. Like, far.
Trying to see if you can go down and forward. I've searched his following list on social media to try and find her, but I ultimately find nothing. I feel like they're not white. Is that bad?
No.
I know who his friends are. He has
The white
male
people will
friends.
be relieved to watch this podcast. Finally!
Finally, they're not white. He has male friends, no female friends. I've met them before, so this interaction has just gotten me worried. So this woman was in front of their house? Especially his reaction and him telling our daughter not to say anything.
It sounds like they, quote, ran into each other. I don't think that's real, but, quote, ran into each other, and then she greeted them in a familiar fashion and walked off. And the wife witnessed all of that and then said, "Who is that?" And neither of them would say.
Yeah, essentially everybody in the comments is like, telling kids to keep a secret from their parent is never okay, even if it's from the other parent. Super fucked up.
No white man would have the courage to try the whole, like,
that's
she's
not
nobody
true.
and then walk
Not
downstairs.
true.
That's
I
not
didn't even know that
true.
was an option.
Now you do, and now...
Oh, she's nobody. See,
I also think she was messy for asking the daughter, but I know that it didn't come across to the daughter. I know the daughter was probably casual, but
And
like
she's
she's
feeling
playing.
panicked in the moment. She
Yeah.
was like, "Who is that?" Like, she's just like spiraling.
I guess you get to ask your kids why they kissed an adult, but who they kissed. I mean, that's not that weird.
What do you do?
No.
Get up and fucking go.
This is one of those situations that would destroy me because it's not enough to leave, but it's enough to want to leave.
And be really fucking.
But I don't know if it's enough for me and my gut to be like, I'm packing up. Like, if I thought I had a happy, healthy marriage before this, like, I'm not blowing up my happy, healthy marriage over this. I'm being honest with myself. I'm not. And this would change my whole perception of him and our relationship. It would gnaw at me. I would probably be unhappy for like a year or two, and then we'd end up breaking up anyways. I would not let this go.
You can't.
I would not.
And it's because of his response too. He was like, nobody.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this wonderful check-in, but it got a little too personal. So if you'd like to hear the rest of it, subscribe to us on Patreon. Now, back to the show.
Defending.
Okay.
So we have a topic that we want to talk about.
For real.
Which is the Anoka Hennepin County School Board. And because we live in Minnesota, that is relevant to us because we live in Hennepin County, Anoka County, and Ramsey County, I would say, are the other two big counties near
I was
us.
Shocked when Gervais sent me this earlier.
So I was in supervision with my supervisor that I pay for, a really intelligent Black woman who lives in Anoka County. And she was like, I just feel embarrassed living in that county now. And I was like, what? And she told me. So the school board was proposing, and the reason why it's still relevant to bring up is because they settled on something, but what they settled on is very sketchy. So it still needs eyes on it, still needs to be talked about. But what the school board was proposing was that half of the school board, specifically Matt Audette, who is also the treasurer, was proposing that they were not going to sign the budget for the next year because they felt like the things that the budget was paying for were wrong. And so I think a lot of people feel like, oh, this shit only happens in the South. Like, people kind of like pushing away school board budgets because they're too woke. And so he had posted on his Facebook like their agenda, and I went and found that. And then afterwards we can kind of like talk about
what the fuck?
What the resolution was. But I figured should I just read it?
Yeah.
Can you re-explain what Matt Audette's role is in the school board? Like,
he's on the school board for Anoka Hennepin, so he was elected to the school board, and he also is the treasurer, so he's the money person. There is already a lot, but he's both.
And then when this vote came up, was he the sole person who stood in the way?
There are 6 people total, and him and 2 other people said they were going to block it. And those are the people I sent you the pictures
of. We're going to show their asses.
Yes, I've got that.
Him and 2 other people said they were going to block it. So it was 3-on-3. There are 6 people total. It was 3-on-3. And he was kind of like the spokesperson for the 3, saying they were going to block it. Mm-hmm. And basically, if they wouldn't have figured this out by July 1st, then the school year probably wouldn't have started on time, and then people's graduations would have been delayed. So it was like a thing because students freaked out about it once they found out what was going on. So Matt Audette posted
here's the 3, by the way. I just wanted to post it.
It's the smile.
There is already a lot of discussion happening in the community related to the 20+ million budget deficit we face in our schools. For your understanding, these cuts will be largely implemented during the 2025-26 school year and beyond. The district will operate in deficit during the 2024-25 school year, as the process to publicly evaluate cuts to our budget is lengthy and cannot be done prior to the June 30th statutory deadline. That said, as we begin discussions on the 2024-2025 budget, Directors Hoken, Arco, and I have identified, and so those are the 3, Hoken, Arco, and Audette. I have identified the items on this list as policies, procedures, processes, or practices that must come to an end in our Anoka Hennepin schools. It is time to put a stop to the spreading of divisive one-sided views, training, and learning that go against the values and beliefs of many families, students, and staff in our community. My own objective to these issues predates my service on the school board, and it was the focal point of my campaign in 2021. I understand that I was elected because I promised to do all that I could do to stop these things from happening. Given this, it has been possible for me to vote in favor of districts' annual budgets. Given this, it has been impossible for me to vote in favor of the district's annual budgets. My own objection to these... Vote no to the approval of both 2022 and 2023. At school board working assessments over the past 2 weeks, Directors Hoken, Arco, and I told our colleagues that we cannot in good conscience vote in favor of the 2024-25 budget
that funds these activities. And our sincere hope that the board and administration can come together to make the necessary updates to our system to stop doing these things so we can avoid a budget standoff, which would potentially come to a head on July 1st if we are unable to approve a budget. The 2024-25 budget will be discussed during board meetings. So these are the things that they want removed from the plans
Take a big breath.
in order for them to promote the budget.
Gabe, you better fall on the right side.
And
of
this
the
is
shit.
so that our children will not be
Oh, I already.
I'm-
and this is so that our children will not be indoctrinated by divisive, dehumanizing ideologies and worldviews we cannot support. 1. Use or promotion of divisive programs, teaching or concepts with students, instruction/learning or staff development or others, such as systemic racism, anti-racism, whiteness/decentering whiteness. You
Sorry.
can't say whiteness.
I don't even know how to interpret that.
Intersectionality, critical race theory, gender issues. No reference to pronouns, gender identity, sex assigned at birth, etc. Requiring students or asking students to identify their gender preferred pronouns, referring to names or genders without parental knowledge and consent.
Which is so nuts.
So we have to call parents if someone wants to go by a he, him pronoun and they were born as a female?
Right.
Okay. Equity. We can't talk about equity. We can't talk about culturally responsive teaching. View that mediocrity, work ethic, or devotion to duty are racist or sexist or were created by one race or sex to oppress another race or sex.
That's the army. That's what they're talking about.
No, they're not talking. They're talking about anything discussing.
It's like the bootstrap thing.
Yeah, it's the bootstrapper bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, it hurts our feelings as white people.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like we should be
shit.
protected.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
View that one race is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive. View that the United States is fundamentally or systemically racist or sexist. 1619 project.
Is
Say, do we mind commenting on this one?
which one?
What?
View that one race is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive.
I feel like this is a misconstrued way to talk about critical race theory.
I agree.
I think this is how people simplify having discussions about like inherent racism and having views that were put on you by the system that you've never thought about. Because
I guess the reason I was saying it is because I thought it'd be an easy, like, you know, that you guys would say, of course we don't think that just one is inherent, but the system or
But
I
you
don't
know us.
Well,
No,
I
but we
guess
don't
so.
think
I
one
just don't
is
know why you
inherent.
don't give that as a like. I actually thought you'd
But
say
this is
that.
also a misnomer, right? It's
Well,
like a bait
agreed.
and switch. Like nobody believes. I don't believe inherently that like any like.
Did you
our
say that?
whole, but we are saying that. I'm saying
But you're saying it in a complicated way. I feel like.
It is
what I'm
complicated.
saying
you'd
is,
say-
I think
okay.
responding to this question acts like that's what we're saying, and we're not. I don't think that one gender is inherently racist. I don't think that men are inherently sexist, and I don't think that the goal
There we
of
go.
specific groups is to oppress.
I just want to display you guys as the rational, fucking reasonable people you truly are. So that's all I was
You just
trying
want
to
to
do.
show that we were middle of the road.
We're not middle of the
that's
road at all.
absolutely
No,
not
no,
what
no.
I
We're
was
not
saying.
middle of the road. We just don't hate white people.
Exactly.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I'm trying to display you as a positive. Like,
No,
to
I'm
me,
saying to Rachel, don't ever call
Yeah.
me middle of the road again. Middle of the road people don't have opinions.
you think she's mid? Oh my
No,
God.
no,
I'm just
No,
joking.
I was saying don't try and paint us as middle of the road.
Oh.
Who would do that?
You.
No, Gabe's
Dare
the
you.
middle of the road. That's why he's an anarchist on our show. Okay.
Mhm.
Anti-capitalist, no talking about land acknowledgement statements or principles. No talking using language of oppressor or oppressed. Social justice is insane. You literally have social workers working in your school who took an oath to uphold social justice. How do we not talk about social justice as social workers employed at your school?
They don't think it should be in there. They think school should be for learning.
I'm just waiting for it to say like no shaming rapists.
Ascribing character traits, values, morals, ethics, privileges, statuses, or beliefs to a race or sex or to an individual because of his or her race or sex. Claims that by virtue or their race or sex, a person is inherently racist or sexist or inherently inclined to oppress others. This is the part that's hard for me, is that like, this
They're
is
playing in her face.
no, this is how people feel like you're talking to them. And are we making laws based on what people hear and feel when you discuss racism and oppression? Like, that's what it feels like, is like, he said, I'm not voting on this unless I feel good when I hear you guys talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. No doubt that's what he's saying.
Number 2, social emotional learning. Elementary and middle school, leader in me and character strong. Well, I know that social emotional learning is basically the version of school where you talk about your emotions and feelings. And there are places and times where that goes too far. Actually, we could have a side discussion about that. And to say that like learning about emotional health is not learning is nuts. And all those kids in quote sped classes, like the special education kids, what are they learning if they're not learning social emotional skills? That's what they're doing in those classes, is they're learning how to get the life skills to join the other kids at some point. We're going to stop teaching that?
Isn't it more intelligent than actual intelligence?
Yes.
Like, I mean, as far as how our world
EQ.
runs?
Yes. Yeah. It's way more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a lot of elementary schools are doing really basic shit like red light, yellow light, green light. Are you
for your emotions?
Yeah, like are you a red where you feel like you're out of control? Are
Box
you a
breathing? Like,
are you a yellow where you feel like you might lose control but you're not there yet? Or are you a green where you're calm? Like are you? We can't talk about those things.
I want my kid to be really good at trigonometry, but he can't regulate his emotions at all.
yes, that's what they want.
That is
Right.
what they want. Absolutely.
It's fucking crazy.
It is.
3, professional development for our teachers and staff with a focus other than classroom instruction. Staff continue to report being subjected to mandatory professional development sessions, including divisive topics such as anti-racism and white privilege.
Oh, man, this is why people say that white people have little dicks.
This is
little dick energy.
This
oh
is
my
little
God.
dick energy.
Come on, dude.
also like this is what I don't understand. Like this is something I actually talk about with my supervisor that I pay for a lot. I get to be very blunt and open. It's not my job. I don't have to worry about how this makes me look. And the conversation that we often have is like, the parents who don't want these kinds of things in their school don't want to parent.
Yes.
Because if your kid is being introduced to things that you don't agree with, but that you feel like you have the right answer to, why aren't you just having conversations at home about it? If you have these open dialogue with these kids who believe you and trust you and love you and they think you see them and get them, like, wow, how come when little Timmy has a trans kid in class that he knows about, why can't he just come tell you about it and you can share all your negative opinions and have a discussion? Like, why do we have to prevent other people
from sharing things
and like being a real human? Like, this is the part I don't get. Like, you are not, by insulating your kid from the world, you are not preparing them for it. If they never encounter a trans person until they're 18 years old,
what do you think
that does not stop them from encountering a trans person. And now they have no, like, idea of how to deal with it, in quotes, because I don't think it's anything you have to deal with. But if you think it is,
right,
anything to deal with, in quotes, they don't have the, like, the guardrails or the safe place to come home to and work through these things on their own. Like, you don't think they're going to encounter people talking about white supremacy and critical race theory when they leave your house?
Black people? You don't think, like, what?
Hold on 1 second here. I'm just trying to catch up to you guys. Are you saying that this guy who would in every other part of his life say, deal with it, toughen up, all that stuff, are you saying that he's kind of being like a sensitive little, like a bitch boy or something?
Exactly. I think he's being a motherfucking snowflake.
Like, it's almost like he's trying to make everything exactly his way.
It's almost like they're trying to stop free speech, which is like their favorite fucking thing.
It's shocking. And my thing is like, you don't think I've ever had to sit through a training that I didn't think was valuable? Like, why are you trying to save teachers from having to have discussions that are uncomfortable? Like, I also feel like
what did you think
these
was
are
your
things
job as a teacher?
This is the things that we're blocking budgets for. This is the things that kids aren't starting school on time for, possibly.
Learning about race?
Is because they can't handle this. Are you going to talk to your kids or not? Are you going to teach your kids or not?
No, you're not.
This is why I just throw a blanket over my kids' heads and I keep them in their bedroom all the time. So that no one can fuck up their life.
All the time. Number 4, the district's equity plan and related programs, instruction, and staff. No, plan itself must be modified to focus on achievement. No director in DEI. No student achievement advisors. These are roles that are focused on DEI and, quote, equity. Affinity groups and grouping students or staff by race, by sexual orientation, by gender, by other. So that means that all the kids who have queer club and black student unions can't gather anymore. That's what you're saying. But that's real. What do you mean? Tiny violin.
No, I'm saying this guy is a fucking bitch. This is how I'm seeing his life.
Whining.
And no one can do this.
Oh my god.
And no affinity groups. And they can't do anything by sexual orientation or by gender. He is the biggest bitch in the world.
Who the fuck do they think runs Spirit Week? The gays. What the fuck?
5, social studies curriculum. Adoption of 2021 Minnesota standards. Halt the process. Wait,
Social studies curriculum?
Hold on, pause. There was a standard let out in 2021 in Minnesota, and we want to stop implementing the statewide standard. You, my guy, get to do that on the education board. I think you're pushing past
Pushing it, buddy.
your depth.
You got too much dip on your chip, as the whites would
We
say.
cannot adopt a curriculum that is obviously slanted and biased toward a single worldview that is decidedly negative in what it teaches about our country.
Can you even believe that he fixed his fucking fingers to type that?
Yes, absolutely.
It's so ironic.
He's good with a single worldview, just not the one that's not his.
Right.
So that our children may learn in an environment free from unneeded and unwanted sexualization we cannot support. What are we talking about?
Trans.
Okay. I was like,
Trans.
sexualization.
But y'all are out here doing cotillions and having father-daughter dances where they're like, okay.
What's again, is not the point of developing your children to be critical thinkers. Do you not want children who can see things and
No.
decipher what they think
don't.
is true?
They don't. They want.
My children don't understand you, black.
Number
Black.
6 is about something I have no idea, so I'm skipping it. 7, student surveys, requests for information or data collection, whether formal or informal, from or about students not approved by the school board.
You can't do a student survey.
Apparently not. They don't want to figure out how the people of color or the queer
Are
folks
feeling.
clearly.
Feels racist. Yeah.
It feels very racist. So that the student behavior and discipline may be restored and academic rigor will be strengthened, we cannot support the expulsion waiver process and student discipline issues.
Racist. The student behavior and discipline. You blacks are getting out of hand.
Restoration justice practices in place of suspensions or expulsion waivers. So you're telling me that if a kid was wrongfully expelled, or if you guys realize that their expulsion was due to some kind of mental health, no? That's not
Yeah.
a waiver? That's not waiverable? Okay, this...
Wait, they don't want restorative justice practices. That
Well, that hurts us.
How?
How?
I'm trying to, I don't know, I'm just trying to tap into his brain, but that's what I'm thinking is that to him, it's just anything that isn't complimentary toward his.
It's anything that isn't rigid, anything that isn't like.
Anything that lets anybody who doesn't fit into the box slip through is a no for him. If you don't confine to the box, then it's a no for you.
And it's all things that like black or brown or queer people are maybe more a part of, like restorative justice stuff. Like that sounds like,
Well, yeah, it
some,
doesn't help.
like
Yeah.
Number 9, this one actually is more upsetting to me than the racial ones because this impacts my work more than the racial ones. Number 9, standards-based grading. Grading system itself being implemented in middle schools and high schools. Credit recovery process, system enabling a student... Credit recovery process, system enabling a student to receive credit for a course via alternative examination or assignments when extraordinary circumstances do not exist.
So AKA like if you have ADHD or like those type of things, you can't get accommodations?
So that our children may learn in an environment free from the distractions of political ideologies and imposition of belief systems and worldviews, which is not the proper role of schools, we cannot support. The reason why this is so hard for me is because there are a lot of kids that I work with that are low IQ and only graduate because the school works with them. There are a lot of kids I work with who have been significantly abused and have significant trauma and are only graduating high school and not getting their GED because they're able to do credit recovery. Like these systems are in place because the standardized school system doesn't work for everybody all the time. Not even just because you have some fundamental flaw, but you could have life experience that happens that makes the school system not work for you.
Yep.
And so like
I'm just like
to think that like if you blow it one semester out of the 8 semesters, you will not graduate on time because there is no credit recovery option blows my mind. You cannot make a mistake for 4 years.
But they love kids. But they love children. But they're for children.
4 years.
You hate kids.
You
have to hate children.
It blows my mind. All right, last but go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like, this is honestly one of the funniest things I've ever fucking read in my life.
It's
like
almost ridiculous.
That he's an adult man and that anyone who's in a political type situation, you think like, Let's see. Let me just put something that benefits me only, and I'm going to throw this out and just, I fucking hate this guy. I fucking hate him.
No, I want to go like
And this
egg
is
his
a
fucking thing.
fear-based approach to life because you think that
Mhm.
if all these other people are able to be successful, your children won't. And what does that say about how you feel your kids, how much you believe in your children, that you think that you have to shit on everybody else and make school a very specific way because otherwise your children won't be successful?
Mhm.
What does that say about how
Right.
you view your kids?
Right.
If you guys just approached him and like whipped a titty out or something like that, I think he'd just fall on the floor and piss his pants. Like, I don't even know like what he'd do.
Last but not least, number 10, learning
Sorry, that was
environment distractions such as displaying non-school related groups, ideas, themes, trademarks, symbols, brands, ideologies, emblems, or flags other than the American flag in school or classroom. Clearly talking about the queer, trans, bisexual.
Muslim.
I bet he'd be okay with the Nazi flag.
I bet.
Displaying non-school related school-specific statements or mission, purpose, values, teacher-specific statements of mission, purpose, values, any statement of mission, purpose, values, or beliefs not approved by the school board. Oh, so everybody who works for you has to run their beliefs through you.
That.
I
What
wonder
a-
what this guy thinks about the Constitution.
What a champ.
I'm sure if you asked him,
Right.
You would
he'd
say it's
say
the
he's
best
big.
thing ever.
Yeah, he'd say it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then he puts this shit out that is so fucking
I would
anti-constitutional.
love to see somebody challenge this guy.
I would love to. I mean, as a white person, I feel like I have
I would
access.
pay money to see
I
somebody
would have.
go at him.
I would love to fucking
So the response to this was like there was all this organization through the teachers and the kids and the Anoka Hennepin school district, because for people who are not from Minnesota, Hennepin specifically has to be one of the most diverse school districts. Right. So
Has
like
to
you
be.
are talking about a very diverse population of kids. So this came out, this was a big thing. So people were protesting, marching. They showed up to the school board meetings. And what has been decided as of May 2nd is that the budget will not be at a halt. It will be signed off. However, they did this in agreement to some undisclosed conversation and plan that the school board made with each other to satisfy these needs.
That feels
So
big.
they've said, like, yes, the budget is going through, but we haven't said what. He nor the other two people have said what they got in order to let this go through, but they are making it clear they got something.
I don't like that.
Oh, I'm totally comfortable with that. No, that is fucking insane. And also just the fact that
Why isn't that public?
It is public. I just didn't hear about it. None of us heard about it.
you know what's
But, like,
really
but the decision.
sorry.
Shouldn't the decision? Sorry, I want to hear what you're saying too.
No. I'll shut the fuck up. You talk. I'm sorry.
Shouldn't the decision what?
Shouldn't the decision that they made, what the thing that they're trying to hide, shouldn't that be public or no?
Well, because the decision they made was to go through with the budget, and the thing that was public was that the budget wasn't going through. And the reason why the budget wasn't going through was that it was public because he made it public. He blew it up.
Oh.
He blew it up by putting it on his Facebook or whatever. So he made it public to get what he wanted, and then supposedly he got what he wanted and kind of fell back into the...
Fell in line again.
How do you feel like this would impact your practice as a therapist if this passed? Like, if you were supporting any teens who were in this school system, like, what do you think would be the impact if this actually went through?
If you're supporting teens, it's devastating. Like, you're doing grief work. You're doing, like, crisis work with people. This, like... Imagine being a Black or brown or queer student and you're at the beginning of your you're like a sophomore or a freshman. That's terrifying. And maybe like your whole life you've been looking forward to like the high school experience, and now like you might possibly like this is like harming. This is harmful, I think.
Could you imagine being in like the Black student union and you guys had to disband because it was unlawful?
I can't even imagine. And I think about parents. Like, I work with adults more, so I think about like I'm working with parents and, you know, like what conversations are you having with your kids around like, I can't even imagine. Or imagine you've been in like your junior or senior in high school and it just switches.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the thing that would be hard about this, and that's hard for a lot of Minnesotans, is that we perceive ourselves as better than other places. And more liberal and open to other people and differences. And this is like pretty counter to that.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly counter to that. And it's just so interesting that not me particularly, but that there's nothing.
Just the protests, which I didn't even know about.
Exactly.
But I started this new segment, or I think we should try this new segment,
Okay.
like Would You Rather, but therapist version.
Hell yeah.
So I made like questions that only a therapist would think
And
of.
we're both going to answer them.
And we're both going to answer them. So, would you rather have parents who neglect you but are pleasant? Neglect means you have food and a warm bed, but they don't do anything else for you. However, when you interact with them, they're very kind and nice and interested in what you're doing, but it's very rare.
Do you feel loved?
I don't know. Or you have abusive parents who care deeply about your success. So, like, they're emotionally abusive. They can be physically abusive at times when you screw up, but they are so invested in you and everything you do.
First one.
They come to all your games. They watch all your performances. They pay for you to do extracurriculars, all of the things.
First one.
Why?
I mean, the second one I'm having like a visceral reaction to, but the first one because my sense is that you feel loved. And the second one, for whatever reason, my gut says that I'm not feeling loved. Maybe, but you're feeling like pushed. I think it just sounds intense. I just.
You know what's funny? I thought to myself, I said, the only person who's going to pick neglect is a person who has experienced something similar to the second one.
Yeah.
Because neglect to me doesn't feel like loved at all. It feels like disinterested.
Yeah, what I'm thinking of is like the parent who's like too busy but they're coming back and they're like, I just can't be, like, whatever it is. And maybe it's not even that purposeful, but the second one just sounds cruel all the time.
Yeah. Like they're yelling at you when you're at your sporting events and like.
Or it's like you're being pushed, but is it pushed towards what? Like pushed towards
being
what
successful.
You want to do? Exactly. It's successful, but successful isn't always successful. So that's me.
I would pick the first one because I feel like you would have a better chance of developing a strong sense of who you are in the first situation. I feel like if your parents are neglectful, you are going to have a lot of wounds and you are going to feel like shit about your self-worth. But I think you're going to try to. There's also a risk that you could just like glob onto some boyfriend or shitty friend group also. But I feel like you have more of a chance of developing who you are rather than like the parents who are watching everything you do all the time and trying to be involved in it. Like, I feel like it'd be really hard to tell yourself away from your parents.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Gabe?
I would rather have the emotional connection for sure.
Yeah.
Not even close.
So the abusive parents? Or the neglectful parents?
No,
The neglectful
the
parents.
neglectful ones. But
More
who are-
pleasant. Yeah.
That's it. You want the emotional connection feels more important than.
It's closer to love.
Yeah, it's closer to love.
Precisely. All right. Would you rather today, and the date is the May 8th. On May 8th today, who would you rather be in the rap beef? Kendrick, Drake, or J. Cole?
You have no fucking clue how big into this I am, by the way.
I actually had a snap thing, but it split.
You went between Kendrick and J. Cole?
Yes. Yeah.
Gabe, what do you think?
Are you fucking kidding me? Kendrick has fucking destroyed him. I love Kendrick. I've
Kendrick
always
is destroying Jake.
Who else would you want to be?
J. Cole.
But why?
Because he's being peaceful.
What? But Kendrick has fucking said what I've wanted to say for 100 years.
No, that's
I've always hated Drake. I've always seen all this through him. I've always fucking this is like a 4-day long orgasm for me.
Is it the poser piece?
Yes. And he's fake. He's fucking fake. He's always been fake. When he got really famous and he started doing these facial gestures like he's a gangbanger, like he does, like that disgusted face.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking hate him.
That's what I'm saying. Like the way Kendrick
does
is like
make good
annihilating him is fucking great. The anger, just all of that is like feeding my soul and
brilliantly.
I don't want to be called a woman beater though.
That's my thing is I don't want to.
It's not true. It was from as far as I've read.
I don't put any of it past any of them. And they all might be lying. Like it's literally like
it's gray for you? Like you don't know what's true or what's not?
I think all of it is true. I think Kendrick probably put his hands on his wife. I think
it's possible.
It's way possible.
Yeah.
I think that Drake probably has been with like underage girls. I think he probably does have other kids. He's been in the game for almost 20 years, fucking, and he has only one kid.
Well, here's how I feel about the other kids.
I think it's all true.
I think I said that to you this weekend when we were hanging out and talking about it. Is like the other kids piece. is true, even if he denies it, because I'm sure how many kids does he have in paternity court right now with the moms claiming it's his kid. So even if it ends up not being his kid, like that feels great to me to claim he has other kids.
Exactly. I don't know if Kendrick put his hands on his wife or not, but I'm sure he fucking
pick one. You have to be a person. It's the would you rather.
I'm choosing to be Kendrick.
Okay. I'm going to be J. Cole. I'm going to stay out of it because I feel really nervous anytime I'm exposed, and I don't want to be exposed like that. Wow. He's winning. He is.
Winning?
But he is exposed, and his career...
No, Kendrick's winning.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying win. So I wanted to ask, I'm on an island. I'm a 45-year-old white guy. I have no one to talk to this about, and I'm in this all the way.
Yeah.
I seriously, I wish I knew you guys. Like, this brings me to tears almost. Do you have any friends who think that Drake is winning?
No, I don't personally.
I don't personally have any friends who think that Drake is winning, but the Drake fans believe that
he's winning.
Drake would be winning if Drake is winning as long as the accusations aren't true. Like, there's a lot of people that feel like the things that he said were better, specifically like him trying to claim that he gave that Kendrick that information for fake. I don't believe that for half a second.
I don't either.
But I think the Drake fans are standing on that. The rap was good, but he did it off of fake information, so he got played. I don't feel like that.
And he was trying to say that, we delivered a briefcase. And I'm like, nobody's fucking, come on, bro.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
When Euphoria came out, I truly was like, what the fuck? I expected better from Kendrick. And then it was just like, oh
Meet
my
the Grams.
God.
I was like, he wants him to...
And all of his fans are like, well, his songs are more listenable. And you aren't what do they say? Kendrick has no replay value. I'm like, nobody's replaying Ether. Nobody's replaying... What is it? What was
people absolutely
the Tupac one?
No, people are definitely replaying Hit 'Em Up. I don't think people are replaying Ether or.
I disagree.
Ether gets replayed.
Yeah, it's an adverb, it's a verb now.
You got ethered, yes.
Yeah, it's a verb. It is in the culture.
That's true.
The biggest thing I will say about Drake is, I knew Drake lost. Well, one, I knew Kendrick was going to be better lyrically, but I also knew Drake lost when Drake didn't beat himself. And then a single thing he's put out is better than back to back. So you lost to yourself.
Oh,
and people are saying, what is that? Push-ups is the new back. I'm like, it's nowhere near back to back.
It's nowhere near. And also the NBA has taken a side because I've been watching.
They started playing it!
Because I've been watching the games, and Shaq had a TNT interview and he was playing Euphoria, and NBA is playing Not Like
Us.
Not Like Us.
One of the Dodgers hitters is playing that as his walk-up music.
Oh, yeah.
And so now what they're saying is Kendrick should not drop at all and just let Not Like Us become the anthem for this summer.
Deadass.
Agreed.
And he's about to drop an album, is why people are saying he's about to drop another album.
And he could, but he doesn't need to.
He doesn't need
to. He can ride that. He could ride this for months.
Do you think Drake had a mole in his camp who was
yes.
Yeah, deliberately trying to hurt him, or do you think it's just someone
I think
deliberately
you
trying
think
to hurt
so?
him.
I do too.
Yeah, I do.
I think it was somebody who's I think it's either a going in between, or it's some low level somebody who's just excited to be there.
Nah, I think it's
somebody. You think it's somebody really connected?
Yeah, because I think the stuff was too pertinent, and I just can't believe that all the information he had and he dropped right after.
So fast.
He knew
it ahead of time.
This for
some of the info was that new. We don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think some of that was pretty...
I don't know. I have no idea. But I do think there could be a mole in his camp, and I think he overcompensated by doing the whole, we planted that. There isn't a mole. We gave you the mole. And by doing that, you acknowledge that there was a mole.
Which is some pussy shit, too.
We gave you a mole. That's acknowledging there was a mole. So
I used the mole.
All right.
Last one.
No, there's two more.
Oh, two more.
Never have a husband or kids... Or would you rather never have a husband or kids, or marry a narcissist and have 3 healthy kids?
Second one.
Why?
The idea of never being able to have kids, never being able to adopt. And granted, this is what I know now about being in that type of relationship. Once you're in the relationship with 3 kids, you might never fucking leave. But I like to think that maybe I would be biding my time and leave, but I know better than that. That's probably not how it's working out. But I have to have kids, bro. And I also get that it's fucked up that you're bringing them into a situation.
I was just about to ask that. Is it selfish to bring your kids into the world with a narcissistic parent? But then it begs to ask the second question. Is it better to never be born than it is to have a narcissistic parent?
Well, you said that like healthy, happy kids, right?
I said have 3 healthy kids.
Oh, healthy. Okay. Well,
I
I mean,
hope that you got some people in your corner to tell you to leave that man or person.
I'm going to pick never have a husband or kids.
Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah.
as someone who has a narcissistic fucking parent, I'm very happy to be here.
I bet.
So, yeah.
I think most people would feel like that. And I feel like
I get it.
I don't know if I could recover from the guilt and shame of
It's
picking
that
a
bad.
bad partner. But that's my own shit. I probably could.
But also, like,
And then I can
knowing what you know about narcissism and abuse, I get it. Like, it's that bad, bro. Like,
You guys are like too informed.
Yeah, we are too informed. It's like the same thing with like adoption. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't adopt, but I'm very informed about what you're risking when you adopt, and also like the wounding of adopting.
Yep.
Like the things go together.
You're not
Okay.
just getting a baby.
Last one.
Okay.
Would you rather have both parents die in 12 years or one dies at 99 and the other dies tomorrow?
12 years.
Why? Because you can't pick one parent to die tomorrow?
I can't pick one. And, like, in 10 years, they'll both be I don't know, like.
Mid-70s? That's
It's young as
Croak.
fuck. It's young as fuck. I can't pick one.
Parents mid.
I probably, like, gun to my head, might be able to pick one, but, like, tomorrow, I think, like, between, like, can I have a couple months with the nigga? Like, sorry.
Sorry, Pops.
Sorry, Dad. And
He'd
I
be
don't
like, I get it.
he kind of would. It's
Yeah.
not because he loves, like, I don't think he loves me less. It's just, like, functionally.
Losing both parents at the same time, though?
Devastating. But I would have 10 years to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's real. I don't think you feel any more prepared.
No, it's true. And if, like, tomorrow.
Would it be the most anxious 10 years of your life, though?
Yeah. But imagine finding out that you're going to lose a parent tomorrow.
I know.
I would be inconsolable. I wouldn't even enjoy the time. Like, that's, like, I would never recover.
But both parents by 40?
Shit.
Parentless by 40?
That's a lot of people do it.
A
A lot of people do it. It's a lot. They'll have
Gabe?
Like,
I would get pregnant immediately so they could have a.
I mean, I
have
said
their
the 12,
grandkids.
like, whatever. Well, no. What did I say? I said one lived till 99, didn't I? Like, honestly, I'm kind of good with either one. That's fucked up. No, actually, I want them both gone in 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to take care of my fucking mom. Or my dad. I don't want to wipe his ass.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have both. Like,
How old would they be gone? How old would they be in 12 years? That
12 years? You know what? They'd be old. They'd be 82, 83. Like, oh, no. Sorry. 79. They lived a good life.
You get to cheat already.
How about this? I can give it a much more realistic flavor here. Because one of my friends lost his mom last year.
Okay.
And she had pancreatic cancer. And he like basically from diagnosis to death, it was like 1 month. So that led to he and I talking a lot about like, is it better to know to have that time? Because they had an anguished like month, like where he's like they stopped their jobs, like their whole family stops, and they're in this hospital, and they thought they'd have 6 months,
Yeah.
and they had a month.
Yeah.
And he's like, and truly, I'm like, heart attack might be better.
My dad was dying for a month, and I think heart attack would have been better.
Excruciating.
Like going
How
to the
old were
hospital.
you?
17.
Oh God,
I can't.
I'm sorry.
But like having to go, being like, okay, this is the surgery. He might die. Go to the hospital.
Right.
Oh, he might have woke up. Nope, he didn't wake up. Oh, he's brain dead. Oh, he's not. Like that's like.
Oh
the,
my
like,
God.
The roller
The yo-yo,
coaster.
yeah.
It's like descending.
I would take a heart attack over there.
Yeah.
Even with the regret, like let's say
Yes.
heart attack, you never got to say.
I didn't get to say goodbye anyways because the night he was hit, they put him in a coma.
What happened to him? If you
He
don't
got hit
mind
by a
asking?
car. He got hit by a
no.
car by my house. There's a crosswalk there now, which is kind of like.
Oh no, that's horrible. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
so
to
he
hear
got
that.
hit by a car. Rachel wants to ask me about my grandparents. So that's my closest thing to two full parents.
I know. I'm not gonna make you do your mom, bro. That's fucked.
Well, that's it. It's my mom. She's
that's
the
what
only
I'm.
one left.
That's what I'm saying. You can't. I'm not. having
If
you
I
fill
would
out
bring
your
my
mom.
dad back for.
How about Rachel or your mom?
Yeah, me and your. Don't wait.
I'm
You're
joking.
killing me off tomorrow and in 10 years.
I have to pick my brother, so I have to pick my mom.
Of course.
Because he's still dependent on her.
It's also your mother. You should pick her.
And then you get to be the mom full time.
Oh God.
I'm joking.
We've talked about that. Dear God. What was I gonna say? If I had to pick with my grandparents who are like the same age as your parents,
Mm-hmm.
I would
That's what I'm saying.
literally
They're old.
like yeah. I would pick that they died together in 12 years, but that's what they want.
Yeah.
I'm not even picking, like, I don't think one of them wants to live to 99 and the other one lives to 70.
They want to.
They want to kick it together. And on that note,
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
They should. I can't even like tell like how far we've been.
Where are you? It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna.
MBC. No relation to NBC.